What's up everyone, and welcome back to the channel. When he was just 12 years old, Tom Aspinall told Dana White that he would be in the UFC. Life is funny sometimes, and someone who understands what they want to do at a young age should consider themselves lucky, since this isn't the norm, especially when that occupation is professional cage fighter. Tom Aspinall came off a big first-round win over Aleksander at UFC London a week ago. He's having a moment right now as the Brit looks to move up the heavyweight rankings. For Aspinall, he had already willed this into existence long ago. Following his victory at the O2 Arena last week, UFC President Dana White told a quick story to reporters during the post-fight press conference of what a much younger Aspinall had told him years ago. This is what the UFC bossman said.
Tom said when he was 12 years old, he met me at an arena, and he walked up to me and he said, "I'm going to fight for you someday," when he was 12. I love that.
Aspinall joins current UFC women's bantamweight champion Juliana Pena in having told White years ago, before they were part of the promotion, that they would fight for the UFC and become champion. As it stands, the heavyweight title shot picture is uncertain, given that champion Francis Ngannou is out for the rest of the year due to knee surgery and his looming contract negotiation. There's also Jon Jones waiting in the wings of the division, Stipe Miocic, who hasn't fought since he dropped the title to Ngannou last year, and the rise of heavyweight knockout artist Tai Tuivasa, as well as Curtis Blades over this past weekend. Aspinall becomes the latest young heavyweight who is now making a case to be in the top 5. In fact, Aspinall called out Tuivasa after last week's fight, which in many fans' eyes has the potential to become a #1 contenders bout. But again, things are uncertain at the moment, and the UFC is almost certainly going to make an interim title fight until they learn more about how the negotiations with Ngannou plays out. But what are your thoughts on a 12-year-old Tom Aspinall telling the boss he's going to fight in the UFC one day? And what do you think about him making those dreams come true? Henry Cejudo says Jon Jones will fight in 2022. Henry Cejudo has been quite busy in retirement, starting a podcast with the Schmo, but most importantly, taking on some high-profile fighters under his wing at his Fight Ready gym in Arizona. He's been training up the Korean Zombie for his featherweight title clash against Aleksander the Great Volkanovski in April. He's also helped Davison Figueiredo in recapturing the flyweight title away from Brandon Moreno, and he's been working a ton with former light heavyweight champion Jon Jones, mostly in the grappling department, as Bones gets set to make his heavyweight debut. Jones vacated the light heavyweight title that he held for the better part of a decade to move up to heavyweight, largely believed to fight for the title. While that has yet to materialize, Jones is still working, still training, and licking his chops to get back in the octagon after just over a 2-year layoff. Now here comes Cejudo to assure fans that Jones will indeed be stepping back into the cage by year's end, and stated this while talking with the Schmo and Helen Yee on YouTube.
Jon Jones?
You guys will see Jon Jones this year. He's anxious to fight. He's hungry, man. Jon Jones, he needed this time off. He needed this time off to get his mind right, to let his body recover, to enjoy his family. He needed all this.
It remains to be seen what happens with Jones, who looks to become one of a handful of multi-division champions in UFC history. What do you think about Cejudo's assurances about Jones? Don't forget to take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on the latest fight news. Chael Sonnen talks about Colby Covington a week after Miami restaurant altercation. The bad blood between Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal had been brewing for years and finally culminated into a 5-round non-title main event for UFC 272 earlier this month. Colby got the better of Masvidal for almost all of 25 minutes, save for a few striking exchanges, and after it all was said and done, Covington got the W. However, that did nothing to stop any of the animosity from either side, as Colby talked about Masvidal's kids and family in the lead up to the event and proclaimed himself the king of Miami, saying that Masvidal was banished. Then, last Monday, a physical altercation took place outside of a Miami Beach restaurant in which police reports described Masvidal allegedly running up and assaulting Colby, which led to a fracture of his tooth and abrasions to his wrist. Charges were filed, and Masvidal surrendered to police a few days later, and he now faces a few felony charges. He has since posted $15,000 bail after pleading not guilty to all charges. Now, days later, Chael Sonnen, a former fighter turned pundit who is very close with Colby, is providing a quick update. This is what he stated during a recent video on his YouTube channel.
Not good.
You guys keep asking me, how is Colby doing? I'm going to be very light on details. This is not my story to tell. You want an answer? There's your answer. Not good.
Reactions from fighters over what transpired outside of the Miami Beach restaurant have been mixed, with Daniel Cormier saying he was disappointed in Masvidal and that he had 25 minutes to do damage in a fight. Nate Diaz says he wasn't a fan of how Masvidal handled himself in this. Others, like AJ McKee and Khabib Nurmagomedov, felt Colby Covington is not blameless and shouldn't be talking about people's family, nor did they like that he pressed charges. But what do you make of Sonnen's comments regarding Colby Covington? Aleksander Volkanovski believes Khamzat Chimaev will dominate Gilbert Burns. Khamzat Chimaev is a massive favorite heading into his UFC 273 encounter against former welterweight title challenger Gilbert Burns. Someone with 4 straight finishing wins in the UFC heading into their first fight against a top 5 fighter is a negative 475 favorite over Burns, who is a plus 320 underdog, currently ranked number 2 in the division. This fight has a lot of momentum going into it, as Burns is looking to get back into title shot contention, while Khamzat rides a massive hype machine that could possibly propel him to a potential fight against the welterweight champ should he get past the Brazilian. Someone who will have their money on Khamzat is featherweight champion Aleksander Volkanovski. The great is no stranger to big-time clashes, especially with well-rounded fighters, and in his eyes, Khamzat is the real deal. Volkanovski will be the co-main event for the UFC 273 card on April 9th, putting his title up against the Korean Zombie. In a recent interview with James Lynch, Volkanovski was asked about his thoughts on the Khamzat Burns fight, and he said this.
Oh yeah, Burns on the ground, world champion, they'll be surprised if Chimaev goes out there and just mauls him, and I feel like that's what's going to happen. I feel like that is where Chimaev is at right now. I think he's actually going to go out there and show some dominant performance, which is going to be pretty incredible against someone like Burns.
Again, there is talk that this fight is a title shot eliminator. Meanwhile, welterweight champion Kamaru Usman is set to take on Leon Edwards later this year, perhaps in July, and whoever wins this fight could end up facing the winner of this highly anticipated UFC 273 welterweight matchup. Do you agree with Volkanovski when he says that Khamzat is going to dominate Burns, or do you disagree? Let us know. The undefeated Khamzat Chimaev is going to have his biggest test to date on April 9th when he takes on Gilbert Burns. Who do you think is going to win this fight and why? Let us know down below. Let's take a look around the MMA world to see what they think is going to happen in this fight. Let's go.
Speaking of Gilbert, he has a fight coming up against Khamzat Chimaev. So what do you make of that matchup, as considering this is by far the biggest jump up in competition that Khamzat's had?
It's a great matchup. And winner of that, I might see him in the future. That's an intriguing fight. Both guys have very imposing styles. That one I'll be watching closely as well. But of course, I gotta go with my guy Gilbert.
Khamzat Chimaev and Gilbert Burns are fighting very soon. Do you have any prediction for that fight?
I don't know. Like with Khamzat, you haven't seen much of him, and obviously you don't know how good he is. I mean, this is a fight where we'll show whether or not he is what I think he is, And I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I want to be a fan and just see how good he is. No, I don't think Gilbert is good anyway, but if he does beat him, he's ranked number 3 in the world, 4 in the world, so if he can beat Gilbert, fair play to him.
I see myself winning. I was for sure. I believe everyone that I'm fighting that I'm gonna beat, that I'm gonna win. But I see going very hard. I see, especially in the beginning, he might be very strong. I do believe he's gonna strike a little bit, but I do believe he's gonna grapple too. He's gonna try to take me down, wrestle, stay heavy on top, good ground and pound. And I think I'll have a lot of answers to the game. Take down defense, getting up, a lot of striking too. But I see a war. I don't think it's gonna be easy for me. I don't think it'll be easy for him. I think we're gonna grind down. It's gonna be. I see my arms getting raised, but I think it's gonna be a war.
Booked. Jan Blachowicz to take on Aleksander Rakic on May 14th. Jan Blachowicz has not fought since he tapped out to a rear naked choke and dropped the light heavyweight belt to Glover Teixeira back in late October. Jan was a favorite to win that fight, given the fact that Glover was 42 years old. Still, Jan is looking to get back to title shot contention, and what better way to do that than to take on the number 3 ranked Aleksander Rakic. Ariel Helwani reported that this fight is going to take place as he tweeted this: Aleksander Rakic versus Jan Blachowicz scheduled for the May 14 Fight Night main event, per sources, Apex, 5 rounds. Before losing to Glover, Jan had won 5 straight bouts, including 1 title defense. Meanwhile, Serb-Austrian Rakic is on a 2-fight winning streak against former title challengers Anthony Lionheart-Smith and Thiago Santos. He also has big first-round knockout wins over Jimmy Manuwa and Devin Clark. Jan could be closer to a title shot than many believe, as Rakic had been in the conversation to possibly challenge for the light heavyweight belt soon. While it's not clear, it would be hard to believe that this fight could be a title shot eliminator, given that Glover will make his first title defense against Jiří Procházka at UFC 275 in June. What do you think about this matchup between Blachowicz and Rakic? Who do you feel will win this fight? And do you think the winner will fight for a title next? Today's video was packed with some juicy stories from the fight world. What are your thoughts about what's going on in MMA? Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel to see more videos just like this. See you next time.